Ladies, gentlemen, everyone beyond and in between, welcome back to Larps and Tarps. I'm your host, Morgan, and this week I'm joined by very special guests, the prestigious Jacob and Archmage of Spring. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, yeah, as I said, I'm Jacob. As of the Anvil event just gone, I am the new Archmage of Spring, and I'm in Urizen. So, yes.
Yep. As of E4 384 YE.
Yes, yeah, 384Y.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thanks for coming on. So we've done this. Basically, I've got Jacob on because we've spoken about this before, but when we went down to was it E4? Yeah, it was E4.
E4, it would have been E4, yeah.
Yeah, when we went down to E4, we had a couple of spaces in our van. So Jacob and then a friend of ours from our adventuring party over on YouTube got a lift with us. And as we were talking more about it, it was just really funny sitting with Jacob, who was like this font of knowledge, just spilling forth about the stuff you've been doing, because you've been going for a few years, right? I mean, when did you first go?
Yeah, so my first event was 2017. I found it quite funny because the few of us in the van, it was. I think I was the longest in the van, and I was sat next to a brand new player, and they were just like, "How?" And I'm like,
"Yeah." And also, she was just sitting there. She's just sitting there, not being able to say much. We were like, "Are you all right? Sorry if we're just chatting." And she's like, "No, it's great because I could just learn actually what's going on." Especially the first time player, it's like, "What the hell are they talking about? What's an Eternal? Who's this? How does any of this?"
Yeah.
But you taught us a good deal, so I thought it'd be good for you to teach our listeners a few things as well. What was your character's name again?
So my character is So I play I play Ibis. So the full character's name is Ibis Briarheart. So if you look up Archmage of Spring, but in Urizen we have the naming convention of our last name is our spire. So our spire is like your house in Dawn or any equivalent.
And what is it like? Why are you all in the same spire? I guess.
So I'm actually part of Netherwatch Spire. The last name comes from backstory, but I joined in play Netherwatch Spire.
Gotcha.
So I'm Ibis of Netherwatch, and we're a spring coven that definitely doesn't curse the Empire.
Oh, couldn't be you.
No,
no, absolutely not.
Yeah, no. It is us. That is on the wiki. We did the thing.
It's public information now. Everyone is aware.
Yeah, public knowledge. We thunderous deluge to the Empire. And yeah, well, that's not our entire group's goal. We also do other stuff regarding spring magic and trade. We've got some ambassadors. We've got the Imperial Inquisitor in our group. So there's a few of us that.
Oh, that's convenient. Things. Yeah, the Imperial Inquisitor's not going to inquisit the people that started to deluge if they're on their own spire.
I mean, they helped me, so.
Yeah, no, I think I was fine. I have inquisited myself, and all is good.
Yeah, well, one of the powers of the Archmage is the Master of Magic power. So if there's any magic that's gone on that the militia aren't uncertain of, they can get the Archmage to make a legal ruling of it. So,
very influential little group you've got going on there.
Yeah, well, up until last event, we had the head of the militia as well. So
I don't like this. I don't like it. I've just realised that there's too much. I've said this before. Too much concentrated power in your nation. No, I'm joking.
We're a small nation, but we get stuff done.
Yeah, absolutely. So is Ibis your first character then?
Yes, yeah. He's changed a little bit because I first started. I was like, I'm going to take myself and change it a little, just like exaggerate certain bits as everyone does.
Like everybody does that. Yeah, first character.
Yeah, because I'm like, I want to get my head around the system. I want to get my head around everything else. Like, let's go really base character. So he was he's very much a nerd, and he very much likes causing chaos and testing things. And yeah, so it's just a case of doing that. And I started doing lots of battles, and then as I got more into the magic and the political game, probably the best word, then I've been fighting less. I still do the big battles, but I'm less on some of the skirmishes now.
You're not skirmishy. You spend a lot of time. It's why everyone calls Empire sometimes meeting the LARP, right? Because you go to a lot of meetings and conversations and stuff. Which I often think. I think when you first hear that, you think, "Oh, that sounds really rather dull." But the amount, like, it usually isn't. Like a lot of the conversations you get into are really, really cool.
Yeah, Yeah, I've started to get in the habit now of I plan a lot of my events beforehand because I know what time certain Eternals are turning up. I know what time these regular meetings are at. I can't remember who it is on the Facebook Empire group, but they put together a timetable of like unofficial meetings and stuff.
Yeah, I have seen stuff like that.
Yeah, and if anything that goes on there, there's a flyer in the hub, and I try to be like, right, so I need to be here at this time and here at this time, and it's a lot of fun. And I was talking to someone earlier today, in fact, and they were saying, don't make a character that enjoys something you hate. Like we're all paying to be there. Make a character that does stuff you enjoy. And I have a rule in that if I've been in a meeting 5-10 minutes and I'm not enjoying it and I'm not contributing, I will just start like I'll wander off or I'll put something interesting in myself. Yeah. And Ibis is it's spring magic, so it's very straightforward. I don't know if you've ever met a Briar. He's not a Briar.
I was going to say you're a Briar. Are you unlineaged?
I am unlineaged, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're Briar adjacent.
Yeah, I'm Briar adjacent. I'm normally under some kind of spring enchantment, which makes you act like a Briar. It's basically how it is. And so if you find it boring or if you find it convoluted and difficult, Briars just either challenge it directly or leave it. They just go, I've had enough.
Yeah. So you're very much I guess that makes a lot of sense, I suppose. I mean, we kind of talked about. I don't know if it'll have been last week, but we spoke about lineages on one of our episodes, and we actually talk about the Briars. So I probably will come back to that because and the magic and the realms and lineages are all very, very kind of connected. And I think your perspective on lineages and magic and stuff would be very different to a Highborn's idea of that kind of thing.
Yes.
But so you said you changed a little bit. Have you always been like mage? Has that always been?
Yeah, so Urizen kind of, I don't know how much you know about Urizen and stuff, but a general rule is those that know magic are better than those that don't. So if you're not a mage, lots of Urizeni will have a lower opinion of you. Sort of like a noble and a Yeo folk. Be like, well, you're not a noble, so what's the point?
Your opinion only matters so much, kind of thing, because you don't know magic. Yeah.
And so, I've always been a mage. So we have archetypes like you have, I don't know what they are in Dawn, Quested Night and stuff, but I've always been a stargazer. And so the whole thing with stargazer is understanding magic, wanting to get to the bottom of everything, and balancing all the realms is one of the big interests of understanding the world of magic and can we get a perfect harmony, because for instance, if you do too much spring magic, you might end up with the Forlorn. If you do too much winter magic, you might end up with husks and zombies equivalents everywhere. So, yeah.
I think a lot of this is going to be assume zero knowledge, right?
Yeah.
I think we've already said a few things that people might be unfamiliar with. But let's go. I think that's probably a good place to start is let's talk about the realms, right? So that's the font of the magic. There's 6 of them. Again, we kind of spoke about the relation to lineages, but why don't you give us as brief a rundown of each one and how they feel and what they actually are and stuff like that.
Yeah. So the realms are really interesting in that they're not the only magic. There is also hearth magic. There is also magic items. There's everything. There's combat magic and spells, which are totally different.
Interesting.
I almost call that battle magic, which is a 7th kind of magic. But there are within ritual magic. So this is standing in a circle going, we're all going to work together and enchant someone, or we're going to destroy this fort, or we're going to curse the Druge or the enemy. There are 6 realms. They are day, night, spring, summer, autumn, and winter. So we've got the 4 and 2. That's the name the Empire have given. Different nations have different other names. So, for instance, the Grendel call spring magic sea magic.
Interesting.
Because there is come back to Eternals, but there is an Eternal, so I think kind of minor deity within a Greek pantheon is sort of how I think of them, but they're a bit more complex than that in a sense. The one they work with is very sea-based, so they see...
Siaka? Is it the shark one?
Siaka, yeah.
Sharknado the Eternal.
Yeah, the one I picked a fight with.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. Oh, that was you as well. Crazy.
yeah, that was part of my proxy, and it's like you can send a message to it, and I was like, yeah, sure. I'm gonna send this letter to Siaka saying fight me, and yeah, stuff happened.
Yeah, stuff did happen. Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah. So just for context, Siaka is the eternal of um, violence and bloodshed, and cares
Yes.
not where the blood flows. Sort of,
Just as long as it does.
yeah. They don't mind who's fighting; they just want people hurt, and like
Nice.
doesn't like rules, doesn't like anything else. And I basically went, "You're weak, fight me," and they're like, "I'm the apex predator," and
Who
sent
do
a
you think you
lot of
are?
sharks. Yeah,
Incredible. Sorry, yeah, I definitely
yeah,
took us way off track there to show off that I knew who Siaka was. But yeah, so the
yeah.
Eternals and the Realms have a completely different kind of meaning and definitions to different people, I guess, right?
Yeah, so they're the same thing. The Asavane see them as gods. We obviously don't because there's issue with religion and stuff and worshipping. We know
Mm-hmm.
there are gods in the Empire, but yeah. So Spring is very much the most primal of the realms. It's the
Yeah.
most kind of upfront, and it's very very natural. I tend to think of it of like a forest in like I was going to say Cretaceous period, dinosaur times.
Yes. There's a
Um,
dinosaur, a primeval jungle, I
Primeval,
guess.
yes. Yeah. So just lots of life, everything's competing, no one wants to lose out, and it's just this constant fight for survival and this constant cycle. But yeah, so that's spring. Winter is like a desert or a cold blizzard where it's very harsh. It's about survival. It's doing what you need to survive. Summer is about being in your prime. It's about being your best self. It's
Mm.
everything at its peak. It's the best version of yourself you can be in that realm. And it's not doing stuff by house because you're lineaged.
Yes, I am a
Yes.
changeling, obviously. The Dawn is changeling being. I feel like changings were made for Dawn. I do think. Sorry, just quickly. I do think it's really interesting because you talk about how winter is like a desert, right? And also summer has like a cold aspect to it.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting, right? Because again, it goes down to that fact that we've given these places names that don't necessarily line up with what is reality, right?
Yeah. It's just our interpretation of them. We kind of see it like winter. Um, there are a few rituals, but they're exceptions to the rules in that it works better. A winter ritual works better if you cast it at winter, but it's like one ritual. And PD have said that's not our design philosophy. The realms are these kind of multi things.
Yeah.
So yeah, like the day realm as well is a big sea for a lot of it. So there's a
Okay. Yeah.
coral library.
Oh, yeah. So that's why you have the Meroa from the Day Realm, I guess, if a lot of it is sea.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So day is very cold. I don't want to say cold, but day is very rational. Day is very logic.
Mm.
Day is very truth. Day is about understanding and knowledge and finding out things. And it's why Mera are like the way they are, whereas changelings are like, I'm the best, because summer is the peak and majestic. Mera are like, I want to understand this and I want to see what it is. What else? Night is the opposite of day, so that's more emotions is probably the best
Mm.
way to describe it, and like hiding things, and about revealing things at certain times. Sort of night's probably one of the ones I'm worst with. It's
Yeah. Okay.
very
I know that
emotions.
because when we were talking about it, because it's a bit of kind of in our last episode we talked about things like being overwhelmed by the so and so realm, and I think
Mhm.
isn't it like they're not lazy, but they want nice like luxuries and become relaxed and nagas that are associated with night. I think right,
Yeah,
that's the kind of thing it's all about. I want to be comfortable and secrets and talk about things, I guess.
yeah, very indulgent and appealing to all your emotions and taking everything on. And night is much more about emotions than any other realm, I would say. Day just doesn't care about them. Spring is these are my emotions, here they are. But yeah, night's a lot more secrets and change and emotive stuff. And then autumn is the last one. So autumn is trade and craftsmanship and construction, and autumn is um, anything you can build or make or work together, and it's contracts and it's law and it's sort of civilization in a sense.
Mm.
It's kind of the opposite to Spring, in that Spring absolutely hates anything to do with civilization. It doesn't like buildings. It doesn't like people in charge. It doesn't like hierarchy. It doesn't like rules. It just hates everything like that. Whereas Autumn is, we like the hierarchy, we like the rules, we like the scheming and the politics that goes in between it. We like contracts, we like being the best. Not quite being the best, because that's more summer, but we like these trappings of civilization, should we say.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's really funny as you look through, and I imagine it's part of the design of the game, but you look at the different realms and you can kind of point to which nation they're supposed to most appeal to, I think, in a lot of cases. Because I think you look at, well, especially Dawn and Summer, Navarre and Spring. You look at the League and the Freeborn are very Autumn, but I think in different kind of respects, maybe. Well, the League certainly is Autumn.
The League is definitely Autumn. The League screams Autumn. The Freeborn are Autumn in a different way, I would say, with the contracts. Yeah.
I think it's the contracts, but then everything else seems, because I always get the impression when you think of the Freeborn, it's like, oh yes, we're free flowing and we're all free, except I want to know exactly what you owe me, why you owe me, and I want it written down and signed. It's kind of like it feels like a contradiction, but which I guess is why it feels a bit odd. But yeah, no, it's just funny. You can kind of see the little comparisons here and there.
There's lots of realms. Urizen and Day really get on as well.
Oh god, yeah. I want to talk to you about Urizen a little bit more. I think at some point, obviously, we'll talk a bit more about magic, but because I think that again, Urizen, Day, and Mero just feel like they're made of each other. They're just so similar in so many kind of things about how they are.
Yeah, well, the Freeborn actually ship their Mero to Urizen because they're like...
Yeah, I read about
that. You're not going to like it here. Let's go give you to Urizen, because they're like very...
Yeah, 100%. You're going to have an absolutely horrible time here. We're going to off you pop. See you later. I quite like that in... because that's like in Dawn, like adoption's a huge thing. Sometimes like a changeling house, will have an unlineage child, and they'll be like, well... No. And then they'll be like, someone could adopt this child and we'll take your changeling. Very good. The conversations we've kind of had is I think one thing you said to me was it took you a long time to find the levers to pull at Empire, and now you've kind of worked it out. And I wanted to kind of chat to you about your kind of journey as a mage. Like, you came as a mage. What was the first thing you did? Like, did you come as a group? How did you get into magic? And how did you get from being a new player in 2017 to Archmage of Spring? Like, what was that kind of story like?
So I have to give a lot of credit actually to the previous Archmage of Spring. They're absolutely fantastic player, both in and out of character, wonderful to RP with and be part of. And yeah, a lot of it was taken under my wing. So there's two beats to the story a little bit, in that I first started in 2017. I came with one of my friends, and I knew some people from uni, and I was like, I'm not going to be part of your Spire, but I will see how it goes. And then over that first event, I was like, no, I really get on to you guys in character. Let's join the Spire. And that was Netherwatch. My first event, I approached the then Archmage of Spring, which was Volfashion Hall, I believe. And I was like, hey, I'm really interested in spring magic. What have you got for me? They went, hey, do you fancy making a spring arcane projection? I think this would work. This is really useful. So I went away and did that. There was a bunch of people in Urizen that helped me find the mana, understand what an arcane projection is. So what an arcane projection is, for those that don't know, is you get 10 mana crystals, and you put them in, and at downtime, you go, I want a ritual that does this really cool thing. And PD will either go, yeah, here you go. This is how much it's going to cost to cast it. Or they go, no, you can't do that. Have it back. Have half your mana back. So, yeah, I got into that. A lot of my Magic game now revolves around arcane projections and figuring out how to do things. So,
is there like a set list of arcane projections, or do you just freeball it?
There's a whole... I could go on arcane projections for ages. So within each realm, there are resonance and dissidence. So things that it's really good at, not dissidence, but Yeah, things that it's really good at and things it's really bad at. So if I want to make something that means people work together better, that's not going to work in spring because spring doesn't like working together. It might work in autumn because autumn's about bonds and connections and stuff. One of the examples, the Archmage of Winter, made an arcane projection in winter that gave you 2 relentlesses a day.
Mm.
And then he got that turned into a ritual text, and then that
right. Yeah, okay.
becomes a ritual. So there is now a ritual in Imperial Law that he made and is about doing it. So basically, if you look at the rituals, you're not going to be able to do anything of that. There's a whole page on ritual theory on like you can't silence people, you can't make yourself invisible, you can't make anyone do something they don't want to do. Like mind control's just not even on the table. But if other stuff, like if it's an arcane projection to say curse a territory or curse an army, like you could do that because there are no army curses in Imperial Law, but you could probably make one.
So I know the one that I know about was, I think the year before we started, was Edric Degovan. So I think it was everyone in Dawn. Every time they went to, if there was something they couldn't remember on a person's name, they would say Edric Degovan, and they'd be like, "Who the hell is Edric?" But like, and that was one that I think that was an arcane projection.
Yes, yeah, that will be. It's a unique effect. They've chosen to cast it rather than put it in Imperial Law and do it like that. Yeah. So I ended up down that rabbit hole, and then for a couple of years I was kind of on and off at events, and I would bump into the Archmage of Spring, and they'd be busy doing stuff, and then other bits, and then at a player event, and I was always kind of lurking in the background is what I should probably say. Like I would tell literally I would tell the Archmage of Spring, like there was a meeting with Lowfear, and I just sat in the back of the room and watched, and there was one with Siaka, and I did the same thing.
Yeah.
And it all came to a head where I was at a player event where the Fabian, who was the then Archmage of Spring, I basically approached him and was like, I'm gonna be an Archmage one day. And he was like, well, what realm? And I was like, I'm between Spring and Day. And he's like, well, they're very different things.
Yeah.
And then I saw him at another player event afterwards, and I was like, I've gone for Spring. I'm like, I want your job. And he's like, I've already got a proxy, but I'm happy to take you on my team and kind of teach you and show his style of doing things. And then that was basically the last year. I just, it was me, Sir Elian in Dawn, and Fabian were kind of like the core team of Spring. We had other people that helped us.
Yeah. And
we'd go around and we'd sort stuff out, and he was training us both up to do it. And then at the last event, a winter marker challenged Fabian for the Archmage position. And one of my spire mates saw they were being challenged and went, I think you're ready for it, and put my name down. And by the time I found out, it was too late for me to like withdraw.
Oh my God.
And I went, I'm just going to go for it. So I then spent the next like 30, 40 minutes finding Fabian, being like, I'm sorry this thing has happened, but I'm going to go for it, and finding the rest of like people to vote for me to turn up.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So you were going against Fabian and this winter marker?
Yes. I can't remember their name, unfortunately. But she was part of a Spring Coven in Wintermark.
It happens.
Yeah.
It's like you're having to remember several names, like for one person.
But yeah, so she wasn't very happy how the whole, like lots of reasons and lots of stuff, been challenged, and I, at the end of it, got voted in to the position. So
amazing. And then because I definitely did hear rumors about it, because I was like, because when I saw you, I was like, I knew you, the new Archmage, which was really cool.
Yeah.
So awesome. So yeah, I guess it's. I mean, that's that follows a lot of the advice we've kind of presented before, of just kind of like go to stuff you're interested, make conversation, jump into stuff, and you kind of like, by lingering and talking to the right people, you eventually got to where you are.
So there was two kind of elements to it. So in the first experience with Wolf, I was going away doing other bits, didn't really have a connection because they were busy and they had their own team and stuff. And I found other areas of the game, like I was skirmishing, I was working with Horizon on certain arcane projections, and had other bits. Once I'd talked to like Fabian and stuff, and like just followed him for a bit and seen other bits, how they'd been done, and or seeing how things haven't been done, I've gone, right, okay, so I think this needs to be done this way, or this needs to be done this way. Like, to bring it back to the levers, like you said, there's some that are PD are much better at some of them. Like, they've got the wing messenger on a wind. If you want to talk to the person, that's a great way to find a lever and pull it. Like, the Archmage will have massive levers in terms of we can send a message to an Eternal.
Yeah.
Like, we've got these other things, but there are smaller ones which people don't shout about because they've worked to get them.
Yeah, okay.
And it's about knowing those people and connections, and it's about knowing
who knows what and where to go. Yeah.
And knowing what they've done to get that lever.
Yeah.
Because then it's a whole cycle and system.
It's really interesting to see stuff like this because, again, so a lot of the game that we've kind of done is often quite local, I feel. So the stuff that we've got up to is Tom's made a cartel in the league called the Jolly Jackdaws. But then my stuff has kind of been a bit local, so like finding Liao, hunting stuff down, things like that. But it's quite interesting to see like pulling the big mechanisms and seeing how stuff and kind of exposing them out a little bit. And I think it's really cool to see that and be like, okay, maybe that's something I want to start shifting towards and looking for. Things like knowing the Archmage of Spring is incredibly useful. So, because the house I'm in is pretty heavily associated with Spring. And a big thing for Tristan, my character at the minute, is trying to mess with the Valorn, essentially, trying to sort that out. So there's a lot of stuff at the minute that I'm kind of like Spring focused. So it's fun to kind of be like, right, I need to talk to this person.
Yeah. Not all Spring is Valorn, but Valorn is Spring. It's a weird one where they're kind of like two separate but very close things.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a fair amount of research into the Valorn, I love the library, the Anvil library.
Yes.
I went down there, I think, on the last day, and I was just like pulling book after book after book, be like, can I have all of these? Because I want to understand the Valorn. There's some stuff I'd learned. I was like, I want to dig more into it. But it's fun seeing that kind of deep lore. And I think, again, in Tristan's mind, Tristan's now gone, okay, fairly convinced Valorn are the biggest problem, and Valorn is Spring. So I'm gonna get a Spring-shaped hammer and just be like, I'm gonna. This will work. Yes, good.
Anything Valorn related, I'd always say speak to the advisor of the Valorn. Like, I've got a pretty good relationship with them.
Yeah, I spoke to them a little bit as well.
Yeah, they're wonderful to work with as well. Have you seen the history of the Valorn book? You said you raided the library. But
which one? I've got the one on the Fall of Turuniel.
So there's
Valorn in Axos. I've read as well.
I'll find it in a minute. There is a green solid book.
Oh, the big actual proper book.
Yeah, the actual book.
I've seen it, but I haven't got it, and it kind of like it was basically done, sorted and sold before I had started to engage with that side of the game. But yeah, I definitely want a copy of that.
Well, I've got a copy you can borrow. Potentially. I mean,
excellent.
Mine came from the previous Archmage. He had his own copy, but had spares for us.
Oh wow, yeah,
so it was very kind. But yeah, it's really interesting reading. It's basically a culmination of everything else. I read through it and I've got pages of notes where I'm just like, this could be this or this is this, and it's just, the Valorn is such a giant mystery. You can easily get lost down the rabbit hole.
It's the more I look at it, the more it's kind of one of those things where I've looked at it and I've just been like, how have we not sorted this? Like, this is a horrifying problem that we need to deal with. Obviously, I know that it's a fairly insurmountable task, but I'm just sitting there going, it's just in the Empire. It's just there. They're just here. How are we okay with this?
The brilliant thing is, so if you look at the Sarengrave, do you know where that is? Yeah. So Druge territory right next to us. That we got some maps from it, and that has Valorn in it. Like, you can look it up and Valorn in it. And we're like, what you're saying is we've been sat next to a Valorn territory for the last 20 years, and we didn't even realize till we got these maps. We're like, something odd's going on here.
Oh, it's and every time I hear about something, I was like, yeah, cool. I mean, Tristan is like Dornish to his core. Yeah, the Druids are a massive problem. We need to deal with it. Has anyone just seen this slow? I mean, already we think an apocalypse that happened quite a while ago, just still here. Are we just leaving that whilst I feel like we need to address this?
To be fair, Urizen was around before it happened. We're still here. Like, if
Yeah.
something bad happens again, we're still going to be around. We can watch you blow it up. Like, it's just
Oh,
another empire.
it's just really funny. Just sit there going, well, cool. This massive, and like you say, it's an absolute. We've gone off down a rabbit hole ourselves, and it's easy to do so. But it's just this massive thing where I'm like, we need to do an episode on the lawn because I want to speak to the advisor on it and just be like, so can you just help me out here?
Yeah.
So I think we've kind of talked about your experience. We've spoken about how you got to where you are, which I think is really useful for people to know. And kind of, again, it's solid advice, but linger, be where you need to be.
Yeah, basically, approach the Archmages is the best thing. Like, every Archmage I've known is really helpful, and they're more than happy to talk about their realm or anything. Most Archmages as well have office hours if you can't find them or can't track them down. It's not a requirement, but it's just something we do because we're like, we want to get more people involved. Like, for me, out of character, I've got this role to create game.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not, obviously my character has its own goals, and I don't want to go around like causing problems for people to fix. Like, my role is fixing problems, but I want to get people involved in that. I want to give people opportunities. Yeah, like, that was one of, so when I mentioned before about Siaka and Shark Clave, I basically, in my letter I was like, you're weak, fight me. Me and all my sentinels stand ready, and we got a 60-70 person skirmish off of that. And then we got, which obviously if you're non-combatant is an issue, and I want to do my own thing for people that don't fight and stuff, but it was allowing a lot of people that wouldn't necessarily engage with the Magic game a chance to get involved, because they go, I don't really know Magic, but I do like fighting sharks.
Yes. The opportunity to fight sharks that will eat people sounds exciting, and I would like to do it.
Yeah, well, the danger was the last time we'd seen Siaka heralds, they were executing people.
Yeah, I heard about that. By eating people, right?
Yeah, so they literally they had spears, impale, execute. You had no chance if you're not in heavy armor.
Oh
like,
God.
Yeah.
God, that is rough. That is real rough.
Yeah. And they went, oh, we're gonna go eat all the mages in conclave. And I was like, well, none of us are gonna be in armor. So,
so bon appetit, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ. That's probably a really good segue to actually Eternal. So we've kind of spoken about, so as you said before, lightly, Empire doesn't have gods. The Empire religion, the Empire doesn't worship gods.
Yes.
Is probably more accurate. The Empire has I think I heard it described as fascist Buddhism is our religion. So we don't have gods, but the Eternals are probably as close to higher celestial powers as we've got, that we don't worship them.
Yeah.
We just work with them, right?
Yeah, other than the Creator, which is something else entirely. The Eternals are sort of the closest thing we're going to get to higher powers and stuff. Each Eternal is an aspect of the realm, is probably the best way of looking at it. So Siaka is the savagery and the violence and the apex predator. Siaka would be a T-Rex in that primordial jungle.
Yeah.
Is how I would describe it. Whereas Lothar, who is rot and decay, and they're a mushroom person. They very much about the downfall of life so new life can begin. They're the end stages of the cycle, and they're the end of it. Whereas Yanagra is the new life and is the cycle and the chaotic diversity in all these different plants and animals. And they're sort of two sides of the same coin, but each is a different aspect of the spring realm.
I guess that's really interesting because I hadn't really seen it like that. I think I just, because I'm mostly aware, I guess, of the summer stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, they're all just summery individuals. But I guess it's interesting, especially to look at it from the life perspective of spring, different kind of aspects of that.
And it's interesting as well because some are much more humanoid. They're very much about their pride. We take on a human persona. They're like, they want relationships and stuff. Whereas like night, they're all worms and creatures and little things. And spring are just very upfront with what they are. They're a force of nature. They're not going to bargain.
Yeah. which I think is So I guess the conclave. So I'll get more into conclave I think in a bit, but conclave categorizes Eternals right by how much we like them
Yes.
or get on with.
Yeah. So conclave's a tricky one because there's a lot of work being done on conclave, and there's going to be a big update on conclave before next event, so it might all change. But I think in terms of Eternals, it won't. Conclave has 3 different ways to view an Eternal. There's amity, neutrality, and enmity, which with a northern accent and dyslexia makes it really difficult to differentiate between the two.
Who's who? What's going on? Are we friends?
Yeah. You either hate me or you want to be my friend. I don't know. So enmity, so like enemy, is a barbarian, so we treat them the same as we do the Druge or the Jotun. They're bad people, basically, in our eyes. We don't want to work with them. It means they're heralds, so the people that do the work for them, their representatives really struggle to interact with the Empire. They can't really get to it easy. It's just a bit of a challenge. Neutrality, they're foreigners, so like the Iron Confederacy, like the Sumar Republic. I'm trying to think of other nations that are foreigners. The Grendel, technically.
Yeah. For now.
For now, yeah. The Grendel. So we can trade with them, we can work with them, and they can come and go within the Empire, but it's a bit difficult, and they're not afforded the same liberties. Amnesty. I don't know if I mispronounced that.
Yeah, amnesty. That's right.
Amnesty. Ally. So A is how I remember it. And basically, it means we want to work with them. They basically get free reign in the Empire. They can do what they want. It's really easy for their heralds to appear at Regios. So Regios are concentrated areas of magic that connect directly to the realms at times. And the heralds can just kind of pop in and come and go. And it means, hey, we really like what you do, or we really like working with you. Let's keep this up. Let's keep being friends, basically.
Yeah.
And that is neutrality is the foreigners, so we don't.
Oh, really, sorry, you said that. Of course, yeah. Sorry, I missed it. Yeah, of course you did.
I don't know if I think amnesty is allies, neutrality is foreigners, enmity barbarians, enemy.
And then they're who you kind of do a lot of work with, because this is the thing I really want to talk about is encounter tents, because this is something I'd never heard of until we were literally coming back from E4, and I'd seen these really cool pictures from stuff, and I was like, where the hell was that? And then you tell me there's these special tents. So can you tell us about what encounter tents, and how do I get to be inside an encounter tent?
So encounter tents aren't locked to Archmages. There's a whole range of ways of doing it and getting on one. So I've been in the however many years I've been playing, I've been in 2 encounter tents. One was for a parlay and one was for an opportunity, basically, to go listen in on something. It didn't go anywhere, but without giving too much away, where we go monster, people that do monster and stuff, there are a set of like old scout tents there. And
it's like if you go past God, isn't it? Basically?
Yeah. If you go up past God, normally on the right hand side, there's a bunch of scout tents, and there is an amazing team that set up all this set dressing, and they build these amazing things, and there's this wonderful stuff. Like what you said, the boat was in one of them from one of the Empire events.
Yeah.
And that was used for certain plot elements and certain other things. And sometimes when you travel somewhere, you don't need to go to a battle. You're going to a market. You're going to a wreck. There's in one of the wins, there's mention of like a wreck under a cave, and this crashed boat. What's that? And so you either go through the Sentinel Gate, or if it's Eternal related, you might go through the Hall of Worlds. So the big tent where Conclave takes place, there's a portal out the back, and you go through it, and a ref will basically walk you around there and go, this is what you need to know. You feel this, or this happens, or they'll just give you a little debrief, basically saying, you step through the portal at the Sentinel Gate, you arrive in a marketplace in Mitwold, smelling spices and hearing the sound of like hustle and bustle and stuff. you just walk into them and there'll be something set up. There's normally some NPCs in there, and you'll go and have a conversation or a trade, or you'll do whatever it is you're there to do. Is basically the best part of it.
Have you got any examples you can tell us about, or is it fairly cards to your chest kind of stuff?
The marketplace I very much enjoyed. We met Harold there, Virahara. I don't want to give too much away, but that was quite fun. And then one of the other ones was an opportunity where we met certain people from other nations, and they were like, "Hey, I want to sell you these things," and we went, "We don't trust you," and then killed them and set the tent on fire and left. We didn't actually set the tent on fire.
But you, oh my goodness.
So awesome. we went, there with a very experienced LARPer who was like, "I'm going to kick this fireplace up," because they'd set this whole like wood burning stove up in there. And they're like, "I want to kick it over and burn the place down, but I don't want to destroy the fizz rep. So I'm just going to," and the ref was like, "Yep, that's fine." Like, we just did it and we jumped back out. So what this person had seen is they'd walked into this little hut in the middle of nowhere. These heroes from the Empire appeared through a portal, killed them, burnt their place down, and then disappeared back through this little portal.
That's classic Hero of the Empire shit, man.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
that's what we do.
It was so tense as well, because we were like, we don't know if this is a trap, we don't know if this is like bait, like we don't know who we need here, we don't know anything else, and like it was a lot of fun, but it's one of those where the easiest way is either Archmage parlay, because they will say, or often you can do detect magic on the Sentinel gate. But you need to know the location you're looking at, so you can't just go through everywhere. And this is normally a case of what you need for a wing messenger. So you need the territory. Yeah. So like Redoubt, you then need the region in it. So delving, Tamori even. And then you need like the place where it is exactly. So like delving, which is the spire there, or Netherwatch, which is a spire there. So you need like the three things. So you can't just go, "I want to see if there's an opportunity." But once, this is one coming back to the levers that we mentioned. Whenever I get a bit of information, which gives me like the name of a place and potentially like the region it's in, I more and often than not will go, okay, so I can get a territory. And this means if I've got a name, I can now send a winged messenger. If I've not, I can go do detect magic on the Sentinel gate.
Okay, yeah.
It's weird in that it's kind of meta knowledge, in the sense of, I played the game long enough. I know if the plot writers want us to do this. If this is, I know they need to give us this information.
Yeah. If this has come up, there's going to be a way. It's like when you play. I don't know if you play D&D, but it's like when you play D&D, and it's kind of like, you have one of those things where it's like, right, okay, I shouldn't be thinking like this, but the DM has told me a piece of information, and they wouldn't have told me this unless it was relevant. So I'm going to kind of pull at the thread a little bit and see if there's anything there.
Yeah, I tend to go on, my character's done it enough times now, they know what to look out for. And that's kind of repeat behavior is a classic thing. But it is one of those where I've had it before where there's been items and there's been like information like that on it, and the person's been like, "Well, this is the end of the trail, we can't do anything with it. All we know is like it was made in this place." And I was like, just go check that, because it might be we've got a chance to go see where it was made, or we've got a chance to do it. And then if you can go where it's made, then there's other rituals like I can't remember it, but there's certain day and night rituals where you can find out about where you are, and it's about knowing which buttons and mini levers you've got to get to that big one.
Okay. Yeah, it's good stuff. It's I think it's one of those. I've been thinking about my next character. I think as a combat character, you've always got to think what's going to happen that day I eventually get killed. And magic is definitely something I've looked at, like spring mage stuff. And I don't know if it works for me now, like as my character now, but I think eternal kind of game is something I'm probably going to end up pursuing in another incarnation of my character. but it's really, which would be great if you're still the Archmage of Spring. Like, hello, person. I know you're the Archmage of Spring.
Yeah. Well, I'm always, I've said this before, I'm always up for people coming to talk to me about it, and I can help point people at where they need to go, or if people just want to sit and follow me for a bit, then obviously some meetings, like, this is going to sound really obnoxious, like some things, like, if my character doesn't trust you, he's not going to talk about it in front of you.
Absolutely.
But some other bits, like, he's quite happy if it's like, can I just watch how you do your job? I'd be like, yeah. And if you've got like, so why are you doing this? Or why have you checked with the synod if this happens? And I'm like, well, I've checked with the synod because I don't want to doom everyone's soul to the labyrinth forever.
I think the thing is, right, it's, and I've said this before, is the good thing about most labs, but Empire is like, talk to someone, make conversation. The worst thing that's going to happen is they say they're busy. If they're not busy, the worst thing that's going to happen is that you're not going to like them or what they're doing, at which point you can go role play with someone else. Like that, and that's always like a really good thing to do. It's like, oh, there's this person here. Oh, I've heard they might be interesting. You can follow them around. Oh, this actually is not what I want to do. And then you can leave and you'd be like, cool, that's fine. I'm busy doing my own thing, and you can go find another part of the game.
Yeah. If you're not having fun, you can, like, I don't mind, like, you can just wander off and do other stuff, and I will try to bring you into stuff if I can. But a lot of like one of the issues is a lot of the stuff you do as Archmage is number limited.
Yeah.
So an Eternal will go, you can only bring 5 people into this encounter tent, or in our case it was 3 people into the encounter tent. Like even the Siaka skirmish, which was 60-70 people, was oversubscribed.
Bouncing at the Sentinel Gate is something I've become woefully familiar with.
Yeah, I had more people than I ever had being like, hey, can I come on the Siaka skirmish? And I'm like, I can try and promise people, and I want to keep it balanced, but at some point it's just gonna, like, we're just gonna draw a line, and it's not gonna, like, I'm gonna be through the gate at that point because I can't be this side of it, and it's just one of those real unfortunate things where if I could bring everyone, I would, but then it takes away the importance of the experience, and 2, it's not something PD can handle so much, because if everyone in the fields try and run into an encounter tent, then that plot's going to go everywhere. Or if one of the plenipotentiaries I went on was just the Archmage at the time talking to an Eternal, and that was it. And there was about 20 of us all sat there. And the way parlays work, this is a really important rule, so I'm going to actually stress it.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Is if you are on a parlay, you can't speak unless the Archmage gives you permission.
Okay.
And you can't hurt each other. They're the 2 rules of the parlay. You can only speak if you're nominated by the Archmage, and that goes for the Eternal as well. They can just say you've got free speech, but yeah. And the other thing is you can't hurt each other, so you can't start stabbing or killing each other. Because if you do, then you get cursed and the Empire gets cursed, basically.
Not good stuff.
No, it happened a while ago when we lost access to a lot of spring magic for a while. Yeah. But yeah, they're the 2, like, if you're going to parlay, do. So we just had this conversation with the Eternal and the Archmage, and it was just 20 of us sat watching. And for everyone there, it was, this is really exciting and we're enjoying it. But if you've got 100 people watching or 1,000 people watching, it turns more into like an assembly or a lecture hall.
Yeah.
Which then the kind of, I imagine some of the fun of it gets taken away a little bit, and it's much more difficult.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, I've been at things at Empire where I've been like, I am not involved. I'm not interested. I'm gonna leave. But yeah, no, cool. It's a really good insight. And like I say, I'll it's probably one of my next characters might be a bit more magically inclined. Or if Tristan lives forever and I run out of hero points, I might start diverting in a different direction. But thanks for all your stuff on Magic. That's been really, really useful. Thanks for coming on. Is there any closing comments you want to make about Magic or to our listeners before we go?
Come talk to the Archmages. That's honestly, if you're interested in Magic, talk to your Grandmasters, talk to your Archmages. Don't worry about bothering us. Most Archmages will say after a while, or will make some excuse. If you are worried about that, we do have office hours. Most of us have office hours. But yeah, everyone I talk to is very keen to get more game and get people involved. So yeah.
Cheers. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for coming on the show. And thanks everyone for listening. Hope you've enjoyed, and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much. Bye.
All right.